Hey, Bobby, you got me?
Yep, got me.
There we go. We are off and running. Our first spaces of the season.
Yeah, excited to get back to doing these. I know Rob people are probably eager to get their takes out there, excitement or whatever it might be after opening night in the whole off season. So I think this will be
Yeah.
our night. This will be our day when we can do it.
Plus, only on spaces will we tell you exclusively about how Josue got beat up by a fan, and you'll hear the full story later on in the show. But you got to stick around. You got to invite 5 friends, and then we'll tell. Then Bobby will tell you the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bobby, how do I sound? I sound okay?
Yep, good.
Awesome. Okay, great. So we're off and running. Those of you in here, the way we run it is we'll invite you to speak. When you get kind of moved onto the stage, just mute it for a minute until we call you out, and then we will, and then kind of join in the conversation. We might let you linger. We might kind of send you back, and so we bring somebody else on, and off and running, and that's how we're going to go. But first, we'll just kind of go into our spiel. Bobby, benefit of an extra day, maybe looking at some film, maybe rewatching some of it. Just things that, or any takes you want to amend from yesterday, or any things that after watching it through again and after thinking about some of the stuff that kind of popped, came to mind.
Yeah, better than I thought. Especially, I think through the flow of the game, you're sitting up there, seeing the leads disappear and all the rest, and just the expectations of this team too. I think I went a little hard on them um, last night. And looking back, they did a lot of good stuff, especially defensively, and I gave them credit for that last night. But even some of the guys offensively that didn't have their best games, Drew, Jaylen, they had some good moments. They made some good plays. You saw potentially where both could fit in within the flow of this offense. So definitely going to stay hard on them. Definitely going to hold them to a high standard. But Drew is a cutter. Drew is a screener. Did some really good things. You saw some areas and pockets where he maybe could have scored, or if he hit a shot or two, could have gone differently for him. And Jaylen, outside of the two, and they were two bad ones, John, and I think you hit on this a little bit last night, that the overall turnover number for the Celtics wasn't extraordinary, 13, but the timeliness of them made them seem a lot worse. And the sheer number, I think you can live with in this one, especially if you were going to hit more threes or whatever it might be. So I come out of it a little bit more positive now, especially considering that they're working so many guys in, that they're trying to do some new stuff here. Of course, you're still seeing some of the defensive looks that are exciting, outside of what they're going to usually do, which is just drop Porzingis. They can play him up a little bit more than I expected. You saw some like zone looks, especially I think it was in the second quarter at timeout. They went to a couple of those, and just the way they restabilized themselves throughout the game was pretty. It made me optimistic to start the year. There were some runs that went against them that they picked themselves up from pretty fast, especially the two turnovers there I mentioned from Jaylen.
Sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, I mean, it's funny the conversation the day after. I'm still surprised, Bobby, honestly, that you're this hard on Drew. You looked at the defensive numbers. The guy was on lockdown, man. I mean, he really shut it down, especially like drawing that Randall assignment early. I mean, a big reason the Celtics won this game is they just kept they had Randall and Brunson in jail for a while there, and that's kind of what happened. And I think they lost a little focus at times, and lost their discipline and gave up some early looks and just never put them away. But that was as much a byproduct of the offense not clicking. They played a good enough defensive game where if the offense was a little bit more in sync, they would have won this thing by 16, 18, 20 points, and we'd be kind of like puffing out our chests today and be like, whoa, that was impressive on both ends. But just offensively, they looked so disjointed. I think that's where the conversation is just going to stay for a while. And again, people are harsh, man. And I said this, we all agree on this. This isn't a revelation by any means, but like the pressure is on Jaylen more than anybody else by far and by miles. And also, Jaylen has been given the hardest assignment of everybody, which is kind of figure out what you do in the construct of this new world order where we have a dynamic big who can score at 3 levels, and and you've got Holiday, who also can find his own shot, and Derek White, who we've seen do what he can do from time to time. But Tatum is the clear alpha, who they're going to get the ball in his hands whenever he's on the floor and let him do stuff. And what do? What are you going to do here? What's your role going to be? Just to wait your turn? Are you going to do something else? Are you going to start, moving without the ball? Are you going to start, cutting? Are you going to, what happens here? That's what I'm kind of curious about. And that's when we were watching the game. I'm like, what are they doing offensively? Are they running any sets or actions or plays or trying to get people involved? Or are they just kind of, just rolling the ball out there and letting it go? So it's all going to come back to Jaylen, I think, the most, because he's going to have the toughest time fitting in, because there's always been someone there who does what he does, and that's Tatum. And now there's other people who can do a lot of other things and contribute offensively. So the question is, what are you doing, Jaylen? What's your thing? Is just wait for Tatum to give you the ball and then just go to the basket? I'm not really sure. How do you see it evolving for him? Or is it just going to be everyone's got to share a little bit more, which means, they just have to find ways to involve him. And part of it can be on the team or on Joe, which is to say, we're going to run some plays and we got to run some sets and some actions that's going to get the ball in Jaylen's hands, because I want to see him, get involved too. 11 shots, Bobby. You know how many times he had that last year?
How many?
Twice. And once he left the game hurt. So that doesn't happen. That's not normal. So it's interesting to see how he handles it, how he adapts, if he adapts, what they do for him. That's the biggest question for me. Kind of throughout. And it was before the season, and it was after 10 minutes. I kind of felt the same way.
Yeah, and in this game, you do see him make a good handful of passes out of the pick and roll. A few of them easy reads to his side for those pick and pop looks for Horford and Porzingis. But he hit Porzingis on the roll for a nice dunk. 5-2. Again, you'll take that from him in terms of assist turnover ratio. It was the timeliness of those turnovers. It was some of the more stagnant sets they ran in those second quarters. And I don't think that comes down to him. I thought they ran bad rotations that put him in that position on the ball where he shouldn't be.
I think so too. But Bobby, it's like, I wish there was just a general stat instead of it was just simply turnovers, like I gave the ball to you, that it was just kind of, like a dumb plays metric, in which situation did it,
Like bad shots.
Whether it's a bad shot or, as they mentioned it on the broadcast, on the ESPN broadcast at least, and I kind of picked it out too. Horford sets a screen. Brown doesn't use it correctly, and he goes in the other direction. Horford tries to widen a tad. He gives him a foul. Like not coming off a screen correctly, over-helping on defense. These are just not...
Yeah, the defense was bad. There's no doubt about it.
The over-helping, the needlessly over-helping and leaving shooters open boggles my mind, especially after that extremely hard lesson learned last year when he did it and it cost them a game and doubled Embiid, when the only thing that kills you is a three, and you left Harden, who had 40-something of the year at a time. It almost ended their season. Yeah.
You dropped out for a second there,
but yeah, that was like the dumbest play of the year, and almost ended their season. And then he does it multiple times in this game. It's almost like he just forgets to think. And I don't want to be too hard, because I don't think it was awful. It's just those are the things you got to cut down. You got to play it sharp. But then assuming he does, and those are the things that kind of frustrate people when they watch the game. Then they see the numbers and everyone's like, it was only 2 turnovers. It's not that bad. It's like, yeah, but it might have been a little worse than that. Hey, I just want to tell people out there who are listening, whoever wants to jump in, just request it. Bobby, you still hear me okay?
Yep.
It said I lost and reconnected. Anyone who wants to speak, just throw in a request. We'll see you, and we'll put you out there. We got one person coming in on deck, Celtics in 6. I'll put you up there in a second. But Bobby, go ahead on Jaylen here.
Yeah, you can't let him off the hook for the defense, especially after what
Bobby?
he said in the preseason. You got me? Hello? Yeah, especially after what he said in the preseason, the all defensive expectations he put on himself.
People still hearing me okay? Celtics in 6. Can you hear me? Somebody want to join me here on the stage, and I will try to get you involved here. I tried to put Celtics in 6 in. but he's listed as a listener. Bobby got booted. I'm going to invite him to speak again. And again, apologies, guys. I didn't know if you guys were hearing me or not. So hang on till I get Bobby back, and we'll keep rolling.
Think you got me now?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, once it's a vortex. I can't tell if I dropped out.
No,
or
I
you, or
heard
if there's
you.
somebody else
You
there.
couldn't hear me for some reason.
Okay, I'm gonna bring in Udinge. Sorry, I don't know if I pronounced that correct. To join us on the stage here. No, he's back to a listener. All right, anyway, Bobby, follow in on the Jaylen stuff.
Yeah, there was one play. I think Barrett hit a 3 on it where you saw him creeping in. That one stood out to me immediately as an old bad habit. And it wasn't just him in this game. I saw Hauser do it once. You saw guys, I think, not used to how well Holiday navigates around screens and trying to overhelp and doing
So
more
good.
damage than help in those spots. So
Jaylen got picked off a couple early as well, where he's just not fighting through that screen.
yeah,
He's
I saw
trailing.
that too.
He committed a foul on one. So it's just that stuff is always kind of like you're looking for that. There was so much talk about defense, and I was like, I'll believe it when I see it. And the defense is as much about effort as it is focus. Like focus. Like everyone's got jobs to do. It's not just run around there with high energy, which is nice to see, but like figure it out, anticipate that screen is coming, figure out what you're going to do, where that guy's going to go. Don't just friggin' flail around and commit fouls and things like that. So, you always want to see that stuff cleaned up a little bit. And that's why we say you look at the box score, it's just 2 turnovers. I'm like, I don't know. He didn't play a very clean game at all.
And some of it comes back to coaching too. If you're overhelping often and you're hedging away from guys, you saw it in the Miami series. At what point do the coaches have to step in and say, we're going to stay home on a lot of this stuff? Because the Knicks did kill them from 3. And I think the number one problem was overhelping in the half court, but they also got beat out in transition. And that's the energy effort part of what you're talking about. There was a missed layup Jaylen had, not to just keep picking on him, but he had a number of moments like that in this game. And as we've talked about, the salary and the status on this team is going to hold him to a higher standard. So he misses a layup, and Randall is part of, I think, that 13-2 run. Shot a practice 3 the other way, and he was slow to come back. So there's a lot to nitpick from this game, I think. It easily could have gone in the other direction due to a number of these different issues. And I think there's an excuse of it being early and guys just getting together for now. But sooner rather than later, you're going to be 10 games into the season. If some of those bad habits or bad stretches cost you a game or two, your record's going to start going in a direction that brings you closer to the Middle East than the top of it. So you hope that they're able to break out of this fast. I think they're going to see another team that really challenges them in these areas again tomorrow. And again, we're picking on Jaylen, rightfully so, I think. But it is a number of guys who I think have to play better here for them to be able to really close out these games convincingly.
I think people here need to get used to, like, it's going to be harsh in terms of the feedback and the criticism on stuff, because the expectations are literally you have to finish as one of one. There's just no participation trophies this year, and that means so. And again, so much of this is the fit and how the Jays react, and the eyes are going to be on them all year long. I would say, we would go picking a little bit here at for that stretch. That's as good offensively as I've seen him. Even when he was losing his mind or pre-bubble Tatum, that was like just next level sort of stuff from him. I threw in, man, I keep losing you guys. I'm putting you up there to speak, and I'm losing you every time. I'm going to put in Derek Washington, see if I can get Derek. Every time I put somebody up to speak, they go up and then they get bumped back down to a listener. And I do want to hear from you guys, because that's kind of what we're doing this for. Otherwise, we'd just do a garden report. Still says connecting. Anyway, Bobby, go ahead.
This is the new X, I guess.
Bobby, did I lose you again?
You got me? Hello?
Oh, I got somebody.
Oh,
Derek,
we got.
you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes,
Can you guys hear me?
I've got
All
you.
right.
Yeah, I
I
got
think
you.
I lost Bobby again.
Okay. Thanks for this.
Yeah.
Hey, I think I'm kind of Joe and this rotation with Hauser and Cornette and Peyton Pritchard. I'd like to see more Brissett and Stevens and Quetta tomorrow, because depending on who you're playing, those three bring more energy. Now I know you need to get shooting and scoring with Hauser, but sometimes you need that physical and you need that athletic ability and you need that energy. I think Quetta is ready. We've got to at least try him in there. What do you think?
Well, I'll ask you a question first, because we addressed this on the Garden Report a little bit last night after the game. I have my thoughts on it, but why do you think Joe did that?
Well, just from familiarity. I mean, you know, everyone knows Cornette. He knows the offense. He knows the sets. But I think it may take some time, and it has to do with a trust factor. I just think it's a trust factor right now. It may take some
Yeah.
time, but
So I agree with both of those points. I want to hear Bobby's take too, but that's what I said last night. The thing is with guys like Pritchard, I'm not doing this to bash Corn. We tease Bobby about it all the time. I'm not sure what it is he does. I think he's strictly a break glass in case of emergency big. I would not, and also if he exists, I like the idea of a third big, just so you're not playing Porzingis and Horford 37 minutes a night each. That's fine. I don't know what Cornette does. I really don't. But when it comes to Hauser and Pritchard, it's offense or bust. And some nights the offense just isn't there. But I agree with you. Energy guys, or guys who play a little bit of defense or do other things, or a little bit more athletic, a little bit more of a spark, you can count on that pretty consistently, even if they're not shooting it well. And for what it's worth, Brissett can shoot it a little bit too. So I just don't know. I don't know if he knows what to do with any of those guys. He actually has a few NBA capable players on that bench, and I don't know how he's going to use them. You're certainly not going to go 11, 12 deep. Most guys are playing 8 or 9 max. And, in order for those guys to start playing, he's going to have to decide that Hauser or Cornette are out of the rotation. And, Pritchard might be playing less at times. Banton comes in point guard minutes. Bobby?
yeah.
Yeah, and these guys need to break through eventually too. You see moments from them in the preseason, but ultimately you got to see it from them in the regular season. And you're not going to go in opening night trying a bunch of different guys and just bouncing all over the place off the bench, especially when you do have three guys a year ago in Pritchard, Hauser, and Cornette who played well for you during the regular season or played well for you in past regular seasons in Pritchard's case. Had a great preseason start to finish in Pritchard's case. So I don't knock Joe on that one. It was more the combinations of the guys out there, three of them at the same time. Horford at the 4, neither Holiday nor Tatum staggered into those lineups that bothered me. But I will start to blame Joe a little bit if, again, 7, 8 games in, when we have a real sample size of what they're doing here, they haven't tried these guys at all. Because I do think you're going to have to pick your spots in certain matchups. Maybe you see advantages for these guys against a certain opponent where you can sneak them in for a few minutes and try it, John, right? Because last year, I think one of the most valid criticisms of Joe is that he didn't try many things during the regular season. He played it safe, played it tight, played these guys a ton of minutes. I mean, John, Porzingis played 38
I
minutes last
know,
night.
man. I
That's
know.
unsustainable.
You go 9 deep in your rotation and you still played everybody 38, 37, 39. That's a lot. So you're using them. You're using few of them. You're not using them necessarily well. And I am curious. I think, on some of these, I know it's a 4-letter word now, but and the NBA is trying to, live without it. But on these load managed moments, I think that's where you'll see some of those guys get a few more minutes, and maybe those are kind of audition minutes. But, you've got a big 6, and they're going to eat up most of the time. Then you got to figure out what you want to do with the rest of the guys. And you have, as we said, 3 or 4 guys who played legitimate NBA minutes on the bench, who played legitimate NBA minutes for, bad teams last year on the bench for you, which means I think you can potentially use them. Thanks, Derek. I appreciate that. Austin, what's going on?
Yeah, I got lost last time.
Hey, Austin, you there?
Can y'all hear me now?
No? Maybe?
Can you hear me now?
You're muted, but I don't hear anything. Bobby, you hear anything?
Can you hear me now?
Got him.
No?
Hello.
I don't hear anything. I will add.
I got you, Austin. You got me?
I got you. We'll add
I can
Victor.
hear
Victor, what's
Bobby.
going on? Victor, you are here. You can speak. Unmute when you can. What's going on?
Yes, I was just about to say on the rotation, I think this season with so many new guys, like with a lot of cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, I think it's something that's going to take a bit of time for Missoula to figure out because, these guys, Fee and Delano Banton and Lamar Stevens, they haven't played together a lot. They've only had the preseason. So I think as the season goes on, I think Joe Missoula, he'll be able to figure the rotation out a little bit better. And then on Jaylen also, I want to say I think it's also a bit of an adjustment because obviously it's a new reality. Porzingis is now in the equation, so I think they just have to figure out a way to play together. For a long time, Jaylen obviously has been the clear-cut number 2 on this team, but now he could very well be demoted to 3. So
Have they
I
ever
just
figured
think,
out how to play together? Tatum and Brown? For real?
well, I mean, that's on a relative scale, I would say yeah, because the team, even though they didn't win the championship, I think they got pretty far, and that's in part because of Tatum and Brown. So I don't know. From that perspective, I'll say yeah, but this is a new reality, so that's mainly my point.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you at all. Bobby, you still there? Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna pull up our favorite stat here, the passes to
passes.
each other. Tatum made 9 passes to Brown for 0 assists last night, and Brown made 7 passes to Tatum for 1 assist.
The dunk where it was 3-on-0.
Oh, yeah, full court lob, right?
It was 3-on-0, and he passed it up to.
Oh, it was a little flip pass. Yeah, the dump off.
It was steal. It was 3-on-0. No, they had, there was nobody there, and he just up to Tatum, who dunked it. So that was the assist.
So 1 assist between them last night.
Yeah, and again, I understand neither one is a point guard, so they're not looking for each other. But that's the whole thing. It's you're either screening or setting up some sort of action, getting for Brown, or you're doing it with Porzingis up high. Tatum's got the ball in his hand, or it's Brown. Their whole careers they've been an either or situation, and that's just how
I
they
did
are.
like the screening last night overall. I thought Tatum was a pretty willing screener. You saw Brown set one late for Tatum on one of those Porzingis plays where he got fouled.
Yep.
So overall, that's pretty. It's like talking about the line play in the NFL with John, but I do think
it's part
important.
of it. It's part of it.
Yeah, especially when they're everything they say is that they're always looking to create these advantages, and they're gonna have to figure out ways to do that for each other.
I mean, if everybody on the court is a problem, Bobby, then yes, you can create advantages every time out there. Like, how many teams can put out a lineup that they're not going to run into some sort of problem with the Celtics out there?
So I want to ask you this, John, and I didn't get a good feel for it last night, being there reporting.
Yeah.
But didn't it look like the offense was a little stale? There wasn't a ton of movement, ton of passing, ton of
Bobby,
those.
What was I texting you guys right when the
games you love?
Right when the game started, I was like, "Are they running anything?"
Yeah, it was strange.
Yeah, it was strange.
I don't have a good feel, and we'll see tomorrow if they add to what maybe they just want to keep it simple night one. But it was staggering how simplistic the offense was. It was pretty much just a Porzingis screen every play.
It was. It was a very simple offense, and it definitely was. It was just Tatum got hot when he needed to. Porzingis got hot when he needed to. I thought White it was fairly efficient, but he just wasn't asked to do too much. But you got
ton
nothing
of free
out
throws,
of
which credit to them, but.
Yeah, you got nothing out of the bench, and then Al hit his shots. So that was that, and then obviously Brown struggled a little bit there, but it was I thought one of those preseason games, and there was 2 preseason games that the starters played kind of in full after the first one, and that second one was the one against the Charlotte starters. You remember what that first half looked like? It looked different than this.
Yeah.
The ball movement was and again, it's Charlotte and it's the preseason, and the Knicks are a good team. The Knicks are going to be there this year. They're going to be in the conversation. They're a good team, and this one counted, and the intensity was up, and all of the stuff. So I'm not comparing the situations. All I'm saying is that was the only test you got of the offseason of the starters, because the other time they played parts of a half, and they. And there was no Embiid and no Harden. There may never be Harden, but that's fine. But the Charlotte game, it was starters versus starters, and I mean they looked like they could have scored 100 points in that first half. The way they were moving the ball, it just looked like, okay, this is going to be a problem. And the shots were falling a little bit better there too. I just didn't seem like it was as crisp. It was kind of, there was maybe the most common text or mention that I got, or people who were hitting me up on Twitter during the game, was a lot of same old Celtics sort of
Yeah,
vibe.
and it was surprising, especially beyond what we saw in the preseason.
Yep.
Some of the talk out of camp is that it was so intense, it was so productive, we're right where we need to be. So when you're hearing that, you don't give as much of the benefit of the doubt that, oh, yeah, they're still figuring some stuff out, and let them take their time. And that's only going to last so long. I think it's fine. Yeah, tough
I'm not worried.
opponent,
I'll say this:
bad matchup.
I'm not worried at all. I'm not one bit. It just didn't look as
No.
crisp as you wanted. I would say, if anything, generally, my big question mark is and has always been how Jaylen's going to fit here. And in terms of, with this much kind of star power around him in that starting lineup, and if he's going to, and it kind of sort of happened, and then also, just defensively how they're going to hold up. I mean, I was, I come away from last night. We're nitpicking on the stuff that we're concerned about, but I come away from it like, oh, okay, I'm not worried about this team defensively.
Yeah, and not only are you not worried about them, but it could
They
be a
might
real
be
strength.
a really good team. I mean,
Yeah.
Porzingis was a problem there. And again, I know every time we talk about what Holiday does well, it's kind of a referendum on Smart. I don't intend it to be, but I thought he was better than Smart defensively last year, even the year Marcus won the defensive player of the year. I just think the way he plays, the way he moves his feet, keeping people in front of him, physical, smart, he's quick. He just gets to the spot before people do. You don't see him lose a lot. He's an absolutely, and he's the motor. He is freaking relentless. And between him and White, what a pain in the ass those guys are. And Porzingis just sitting back there and just swatting stuff away and altering shots. It was really impressive.
Yeah, he gave the game what it needed too. If you were gonna stack up the things you needed to do to win that game, you'd put throwing Randall off his game pretty high on the list, because you start to see the bad body language. You start to feel the nerves in the
He
crowd
murdered him.
about the 1 for 10.
He was all over him. He was just everything was hard. Everything was hard.
That set a
Want to
tone
bring in
more than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll bring in Austin, and again, encouraging those of you out there listening. You want to join the conversation? We'd love to hear from you. We talk a lot when we do these shows, and then we text each other all day, and and we have a good idea what one another thinks. So we really want to know what you guys think. So Austin, what's going on?
Yeah, can y'all hear me now?
We can. What's going
Yeah.
on, bud?
Yeah, I was about to talk. I was going to ask y'all about Drew. I do think his defense was really good, but do y'all think he could initiate the offense a little bit more? Like,
Well, I think that was a Joe thing, right? Like, I thought he'd have the ball in his hands a little more. That when we said same old Celtics, it was because they weren't running the offense through the point guards. They were kind of running it through, point guard brings it up, gives it to Tatum. They set screens, and off and running they go. And it's kind of felt a lot like last year.
yeah. Now I do think though, like at the end, like y'all were talking about, the offense was way better because I mean, different from last year. We actually have like something to go to. I guess like Porzingis pick and roll with Tatum or with Brown. It's pretty hard to stop. So yeah, I think that'll definitely help towards the end of the game stuff.
It's a major addition, and we talked about the ability for Brown and Tatum to play off each other, and part of that issue there is the positional overlap. So adding in a center who can be a dynamic part of the offense made some sense here. Now you're not seeing much of the post play they previewed over the summer yet, John, which might not matter if he's going to hit 40% of his threes on like 8, 9, 10 a game here. You know, maybe you get a post up or two here or there, but the shooting is going to be a significant part of what Porzingis brings to the table here. A big thing he brought last night was the free throw shooting too. 10 attempts. I thought he did a great job drawing contact on the move, especially. There was one nice play where I thought he lost control of the ball, gave it up quick to Horford, reset himself, and ran a nice isolation play. So I think there's some bailout capabilities to his game too if they're in trouble on a possession. I mean, I forget if he hit it, but he pulled out that step back move again last night, John, and it's just a mind blower.
Who's that?
Porzingis.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's such a challenge, and again,
it's silly the level he's at.
And honestly, if he's going to be willing to and potentially make shots 5-6 feet behind the arc, I mean, what are you doing here? I mean, it's indefensible, on those, that's what I'm saying is they could have found him so many more times. And if they wanted to, they could have made this a 45-point Porzingis game.
You've made this point, John, but what he did last night is probably what a lot of people were expecting Wembanyama to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. Is that's who he was. I mean, they're calling. I mean, yes, Wemby's more fluid, but and Porzingis at a risk when he came in. But I think that was all because people are like, no 1-7-4 could possibly, this and that. And I mean, it's Wemby's pretty good guard, so he's a little bit different. Play it down low, who has that kind of length, who can play it in the post, and he's got obviously a great deal more strength than Wembanyama does at this point in his career, and that's going to be his problem. He gets moved off his spot too easily right now, so he's going to do most of his damage from the outside. I mean, and then he can shoot the three the way that he does. It's unbelievable. So I'm going to mess up the pronunciation here, but Hamadinurhead is a speaker now. What's going on?
Hey, what's up? It's Hamed. So two things.
Hey, do you want to unmute?
One, do you hear me?
I got him, John.
Hello?
Bobby,
I got you, Hamed.
All right, yeah, it's Hamed. So I just want to ask you about numbers real quick. Let's talk averages, right? Do you think that Tatum, let's start with Tatum first. Last year he averaged just over 30. Do you think that it's going to continue this year?
No,
so I didn't
hear
any of that. Just for do you mind repeating?
You got me, John?
Bobby, I got you, but I didn't hear any of that.
So he's asking, do you think Tatum will average over 30 again this year?
Or 30 itself? Do you think over or under 30, do you think?
Over 30.
Gotta think it's going to go under. More
30?
options, more spread out scoring, yeah.
Okay, and then let's talk Porzingis. How many do you think he can average?
I keep citing this over and over again.
Because I just don't understand where oh, hello?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, yeah, I don't understand where the points are going to come from, really. If you want Tatum to score, I'm guessing you would say at least 25. Can he average 25?
Oh, yeah, definitely. With the 3-point volume at the very least.
And then how about Jaylen?
Jaylen's going to be the interesting one. We've talked about it. He's probably going to have to be the one who takes the biggest cut when it comes to scoring. Now,
yeah, but then it's like you're paying someone $300 for you gave him that massive extension to average under 20 points a game. If that's what he has to do. That's what he has to do. But it's going to be an awkward fit.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard to have that conversation throughout the year because the money at this point. We said it during the summer. It's going to increase expectations. It's going to put them under the microscope. The left-hand thing already did that in itself. So Jaylen's going to receive a ton of scrutiny this year. The important thing for him is going to be less about blowing up the box score and being consistent in the other areas. I think it was Jason who talked about it last night. What can you do outside of the stat sheet? Can you make the little plays happen? And Jason actually gave him some praise last night for how he rebounded and made some key passes and did some little things that, led to a win. Right? Even though he shot 4 for 11, he said, I'm going to have some bad shooting nights. Porzingis is going to have some bad nights. But what are we doing on those nights that make up
Bobby,
for
do you
it?
have me?
That's going to be the key for all these guys. Yeah, I got you.
Sorry, guys. Sorry for my Josue moment. Everything clear?
Yep.
Better
Sorry
now,
about
yep.
that. So to answer your question, I think I've said this a bunch, and I say it on the show. If you go back to the big, the big three 2.0, the Garnett, Pierce, Allen, look at all of their stats in 2007 before they joined the Celtics across the board. And I don't just mean points per game. I mean shots and everything. Each of them averaged 18, 19, 20 shots. And when they came here, they decided, we're not doing that. We're going to do whatever it takes to win. And they each averaged 13 and a half shots a game. So they got a much smaller piece of the pie because that's what was needed of them. So I don't look at it as you sign Jaylen to come out there and score fewer points. I think actually the path to a better Jaylen is one that tries to do a little bit less and just lets the game come to him and just, lets things happen more naturally because there's not a need. Why did he have to score 26 points per game last year? Because nobody freaking else could do it. You had two guys who could score. So that's kind of the point. You're starting a lineup last year, with Robb Williams and Marcus Smart, who are both offensively deficient players. And you don't have that at all. You've got five guys who can fill it up right now. So Jaylen not only shouldn't, like he doesn't have to, he shouldn't be looking to score anywhere near what he scored last year.
Do you think at least once, though, we can get a game where we have three players get 30? I think that'd be crazy.
Yeah, when they play Charlotte.
I think it's possible, yeah.
That's because as Jaylen hit his shots, I think he'd be at she took
He only
11.
took 11, yeah.
I don't have okay, but let's assume he hit an unreal. He went 11 for 11. How many? If he went 100%, how many points would he have?
Well, I mean, if it's all twos, it's 22%. But if he works in 5 or 6 threes, he gets 22 points. He gets a little bit higher. So yeah.
Didn't he have a couple of threes though as well? Part of the 11, was that including threes?
It was including in terms of the attempts. Yeah, I think he was 2 for 7 from 3. Was it, Bobby, or something like that?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, so that's 21 points right there. A couple. He could have.
Free throws get you there. Free throws get you there. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got to hit those. Those are big deals from this year. The 3 and the free throws. Those are going to be where more of his points.
We're probably going to go a few more minutes. Let's bring in Adam. What's going on?
Take it easy,
thanks,
guys.
man.
Thanks, Adam.
Hey, big fan of your guys' show. I'm actually a sports media major, so it's pretty awesome watching your guys' post-game show. My question was, my brother actually went to Syracuse too. My question was, do you think we're going to see Porzingis hit the nail more and also more Tatum post-ups and long twos? And are you worried about Jaylen Brown sort of doing his own thing or being stuck in the corner like he was during those bubble games that could really hurt the chemistry of the team?
Jaylen's pretty good in those bubble games in that role. And I know there's some negative connotations to playing that role, but somebody's going to have to do it. And I think I said that over the summer, John, is that he's going to have to go back to the corner sometimes. And it sounds demeaning, but somebody's got to do it on this roster. Not everybody's going to be in the actions. Not everybody's going to have the ball.
I'm going back to it again. Just what Ray Allen. That's. I keep saying I'm not saying Jaylen's going to be Ray Allen. All I'm saying is Ray Allen completely reinvented himself to play both with the big three here in Boston and the Celtics and Miami. That's not the player he was early in his career. He was not a guy who just ran around screens and would hit catch and shoot threes.
And was that smooth? Did that happen naturally for him, or did it take? No,
he did it right away. I mean, look, he always had a great shot, and that was the thing. But Ray Allen was in a dunk contest. Ray Allen was not just. He's not Kyle Korver. This is a guy who would drive and score and initiate offense. Give me the ball, take it to the basket. This is a guy you could put the ball in his hands and he would take guys off the dribble. He was not just running around screens. He was just such a dynamite shooter that he's like, okay, that's what this team needs. I'm just going to run around, get open. They're going to hit me from threes. I'm just going to bury them all day. And what I'm saying is it was a choice to be that because the ball was in Pierce's hands a little bit more, and you had Rondo kind of running the show, and it's what that team needed. So what does the team need you to be? It's always kind of like give the moment what it needs. We always talk about that. It's like my biggest beef with Brown and sometimes Tatum is it's not that they're selfish. I just think that the thing they do best is score, and they think if they're not scoring, they're not doing their part. And so when they try to kind of affect the game, it ends up sometimes being with the just give me the ball and let me try to score even harder.
That's my
Yeah.
worry about Jaylen a little bit is he might look at those shots and want to be in the 20s because there's a lot of pressure on him since he just got that big contract. But if he can just like hang his hat, you guys always mention the defensive end. I think that's massive if he can do that.
The defense is a big one. You do start to doubt how high of a level he can play, or at least how consistently he can play on that end, though, when you see stuff like last night. But again, it's early, and there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on him, John. There's no doubt about it. But that's the point of this season. Is I think it's pretty clear how impactful or detrimental those two players at the top, and you do pull Tatum into this, I think, will be for this run here. Because Porzingis is going to do his job. He did it last night.
So is Holiday, so is White. You have no problems. The reason I feel better about it, Bobby, is there's so many adults in the room. I don't think you're ever going to feel like, oh, well, there they go doing their thing. It's so they always will. It's just
You don't
basically
have the smart thing anymore. You don't have Grant to blame.
you don't have
shots
dumb Robb. That's the whole point. Is like Grant brought you a lot in terms of grit, physicality, energy. So did Smart, but they did a lot of dumb shit. They would fade in and out, and sometimes
they were easy to blame.
They would just be maddening, and then Robb just would have some games where he was otherworldly, and others where you're like, has he ever watched a basketball game before? And I love Robb, but it's like it was harder to be consistent because you had guys who was just, no, man, Robb, I just passed it to you down low. Turn around and shoot, man. Sometimes he just wouldn't do it, or he would just do silly things on defense, and then he would make up for it by, blocking a ball with his armpit, So, it was just, but here they're more kind of professional, responsible, consistent guys around them. Horford, I mean, look at that cast. I mean, these are pros,
Yeah, and he did a great job off the bench last night, I thought. You give credit to him. Probably he's adjusted to that role pretty quickly. But this is why we're going to get on Brown and Tatum throughout the year. It's going to pretty clearly fall on them for how far this team goes, because I think pretty much everybody else is going to do their job. And you might nitpick the bench, and you might nitpick the third center, but I don't want to hear it, especially when push comes to shove in the biggest moments this year. None of that stuff's going to matter unless there's injuries or any of those guys we're going to talk about all preseason get called up in the significant roles. A lot of this, when it matters, is going to come down to the two best players and the job they do playing consistently on both ends. And that's why I get more frustrated about last night than I probably should, John, because it's early. It's a couple weeks into this new mix they have here, and they're going to figure some stuff out. But much of the issue last night came down to those two best players not playing consistently possession to possession.
Yeah, sometimes. But again, that I think the overarching takeaway is we're not going to overreact to it, but we're also not going to ignore it. That's what we're here to do. You're to talk about it and just kind of put it out there. And so, yeah, you notice things and you wait to see how it is next game. And, overall, I just think there's just so much good going on here that you can play a game where, Brown didn't really look like he knew what he was supposed to be doing out there, and the threes weren't falling at all, and you're on the road in a hostile environment and you blew a lead and then you came back and won. Those things legit never happened last year. Blowing fourth quarter leads and coming back, and also winning games when you shot less than 35% from three, that never happened. Their record was atrocious on both counts last year. So the fact that they did that and won, I think, is an overall and an overly positive sign.
Yeah, especially since they did it with defense. And that's why I want this team to be a defensive team, John. We've had this back and forth. I think there's such fundamental flaws in the two best players' offensive games on this team, at least as playmakers and facilitators, that the offense is going to sway pretty drastically for them night to night. I mean, especially under Joe, where they're so reliant on the three. You need to have that defensive floor, that defensive ceiling when they're at their best, that allows you to win a game like last night. I think a bunch of people said it, and I said it. That's not a game they would have won last year. That would have been one of those frustrating ones they blew because the offense got erratic late and they turned the ball over and they got outshot. So the fact that they piled together enough stops and turnovers and all the rest to really disrupt the Knicks and leave them looking frenetic, like the more frenetic team for most of the night, was super encouraging to me. I mean, that start was awesome, John. You really saw the Knicks say, Porzingis, we're going right at him. And then to come out of that opening stretch 2 of 13, trying to bang them around inside, it was pretty awesome. And maybe they missed some bunnies. Maybe got lucky on a few shots that went in and out here. But the Knicks came out firing. And to look at that shot chart, you know, I love the shot chart, and see 2 of 13 with all those X's in the middle was a great start. And the defense was awesome last night. I'm really excited about what they did there for all the nitpicking I have of that win.
Yep. We're gonna wrap it up. But thank you guys for hanging out. For those who
Good start.
Yeah, for those who know us, you know, we do the Garden Report post-game shows after every game. Bobby Manning, Celtics beat reporter for CLNS Media, is covering, you know, majority of games, including several on the road this year. So he'll be at the Garden tomorrow for the home opener against the Heat, along with Josue Pavon and our otherworldly super producer, Amit, who will be there as well. And we'll have another post-game show after tomorrow and after every single game. In addition to that, we'll do it every time there's any sort of breaking news. We are CLNS Media. You can find us on YouTube, Daily Motion, podcasts literally everywhere. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram. Follow our accounts. Follow us on YouTube. Turn on your notifications. You'll be notified when we do go live. But again, it's pretty easy. After every game, look for us and we will be there. We are powered by FanDuel, exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Use the code, go to FanDuel.com/Boston. Once again, FanDuel.com/Boston. Get 200 in bonus bets when you bet $10. That's all you have to do. So again, check that out. FanDuel.com/Boston. Take advantage of that special offer. Bobby, I will check you tomorrow. Thanks all.